Hi everyone, welcome to What's Your Story? Today I am with a fellow LaSalle alumni, class of 90, I always want to say 93, but you're 95.
Yeah.
So, yeah. This is Kelly Jung, formerly Kelly Large, and welcome. So thanks for coming in and talking. So what I want to talk about today, and this is Lucky. You can kind of see his head. He's my new best friend here today. And so what I want to talk about today is I want to be able to hear your childhood story, and you know what made it, how it's unique, and just let me know what it was like. Yeah. Where did you grow up, by the way? Did you grow up in Pasadena?
Yeah, I grew up in Hastings Ranch.
Okay.
Right below Alegria. Okay. Super close to, like, I was literally in between LaSalle and Alverno.
And that's where you were living in high school still, right? Okay.
Yeah, we lived there, we moved in there when I was 2, right before my sister was born. Okay. And then after my parents divorced, we stayed. Part of the agreement of their divorce was that we got to stay at the house. And then as soon as my sister turned 18, then they had to sell, or my mom had to sell so that they could split the proceeds. Okay. But my dad was willing to not get his part of the equity back until we were done with school. Okay. Yeah,
So they separated, divorced. What was that process like?
I was 10, so 87. Okay. Just one night, my dad happened to be home. My dad traveled a lot. He worked in the retail industry, so a lot of travel. And my mom didn't happen to be home, which was really rare because she's a school teacher. And so it wasn't typical for her not to be home. And then he called us into their bedroom to say, I need to tell you guys something. I immediately went to, is grandma dead? Like something totally serious. Like, why are we getting called in to be talked to right now? Yeah. And he said, your mom and I are going to get a divorce. And then my sister asked why. And my dad said, because I'm gay, and just said it. And my sister was like, well, what does that mean? And I straight up said, he'd rather be with a man than mom.
Ooh. Yeah. A little angry?
I think angry that the family unit was splitting, not angry about being gay. Okay. But the anger came out when I defined it for my sister, if that makes sense. Right. Because it was interesting. We're just 2 years apart. I happened to know what that meant.
It was like worlds apart. Yeah. At the moment.
Yeah. And so we both went into our bedroom and shut the door, and we didn't want to talk to him for a while.
And mom, when did she come back?
She came back later that night. She went to my aunt's and told my dad, you need to be the one to tell them. And then he left as soon as she got home. Wow. And then everything changed.
And just in one night, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, our whole world was upside down after that.
How old were your parents?
That's a good question. Okay, so I'm 42. So that was 32 years ago. And my mom's about to be 70. So that's what? 38. 38 plus 32. So she was 38 when that happened.
Okay, so just a few years younger than us.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Which parent did you have a conversation with after that I don't know, was a bit more in depth, but you were pretty young too. I'm sure there wasn't like an in-depth conversation. What happened basically, I guess, after that day? What did your world look like?
It shifted in different ways over time. Because my mom was an educator, she had developed really close relationships with the teachers at my school. My mom's student teacher ended up teaching at my school, so she knew the principal. So it started with staff knowing. Okay. And trying to support us and checking in with us. I have a very vivid memory, but not super detailed, of writing a poem that staff were concerned about, and my mom asking if I needed to go to therapy.
It's kind of a good thing that she had reinforcements and some support. That sounds like it was a good thing.
And I was like, there's nothing wrong with this poem. Like, I didn't even connect the dots that it maybe had to do with what I was feeling.
Right.
At that time. So it was just kind of more of this, I was aware of like adults paying more attention to me.
Okay.
Then there was this very obvious shift in how other students treated me.
That's when everyone started to know?
I think that word must have gotten out to the community somehow. I can't imagine teachers saying anything, but other parents that knew my mom and my dad probably said something. Yeah. You know, I went to parochial schools all my life before LaSalle. And so, you know, the uniforms back in the day had that little tag on the very back. So everybody started calling it a fag tag whenever I was around. I mean, just kind of dropping little things like that here and there.
What school were you at?
I was at Anita's Oaks. Well, it was Anokia. Now it's called Anita's Oaks.
Okay. Okay.
Because I was a 5th grader when that happened.
Okay.
And then I slowly lost friends. And I had about one friend left when I was done with 6th grade.
Who was that?
It was Karina.
Oh.
I'll never forget her.
Are you still friends with her? No.
No.
Okay.
She went to, you know how it is with going to private school. We all went off to our own middle school, and then we all went off to our own high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Separate ways.
But yeah.
Wow. That's,
Parents didn't want their kids to be around us because it was fear.
Yeah, scary. Scary that maybe they had to answer questions, they had to talk about it. You're in a Catholic school, so it's frowned upon, of course.
What if it's contagious? What if it, I mean, it was stupid stuff like that.
Oh, man.
It was really hard.
Okay, so then middle school, where did you go?
I went to Barnhart in Arcadia with Charlie and Lauren.
Okay.
And Eves.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was a handful of us that went there.
Okay. And did it feel like a fresh start to you?
It did, and then people started to find out.
Okay.
And so I had a very small group of friends that didn't care, and that was the group I hung out with. But I've always had short hair, and so there was a lot of teasing me. It started towards the end of middle school, just comments about how I must be gay too. It really picked up in high school though. So middle school, I would say, was less about how the people reacted, but more about the family dynamic that was happening. Okay. I was super close with my dad, and now the one parent that I was super close with was gone. Okay. And my sister was super close with my mom, and so she still had that person in the house. Right. So that was a huge struggle. And then my family didn't want to talk to him. They didn't. You couldn't even talk about the fact that he was gay. Really? Yeah. Now, when you say your family, was it your mom's family, basically? It started with both families. In middle school, when we would travel out to my dad's family, to his mom and dad's, they were like, you cannot tell anybody. We don't want anybody to know. Around high school, that changed. Okay. They were totally okay with people knowing. My mom's family still was, as an adult, I can only speculate, but I think it's just to protect her and her feelings. But yeah, there was a lot of tension and comments under your breath about it. Right. And I was very sensitive to it, and I would pick up on it because I was such a strong supporter of him. Because I never cared. Right. I just wanted to be able to spend as much time as I could with him, but he was gone. Because you were living with mom, and you were living up kind of near LaSalle. And when did you see your dad? In the beginning, it was every other weekend, and he tried to stay in Pasadena, and then his job transferred him to Arizona. Okay. And then it was twice a year. Wow. Yeah. You would just go stay. Would you get on a plane by yourself, or you and your sister? We did once. Okay. And I have a terrible fear of flying. And so after that, it was my mom would drive us halfway to, is it Blythe? Is that the halfway point? I have no idea. And then my dad would pick us up and then drive the rest of the way. Okay. And then we would stay out there for some time. I wasn't very kind to the man that he left my mom with. Oh. So those were not good years, unfortunately. So was he living with that man? He was. Okay. And so when you went to visit, obviously you interacted with your dad and then probably ignored him. Right. I didn't want to have anything to do with him. He was a family friend of ours, or I thought a family friend. Okay. He was somebody my dad worked with. Okay. And then when they came out, it was like, oh, you guys are deceiving us. And then you're the reason now my dad's gone. So I just...
Yeah.
I was kind of a little snot.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you be? I mean, I don't know. I totally think I would have been the same way.
Yeah,
Did he?
I wasn't kind.
Don't have to go into his story, but did he also have a family that he left?
No, he was single.
Okay.
He was much younger than my dad, actually.
Okay.
I mean, like 8 years younger, not a lot.
Right.
But yeah, he always knew that he felt like a same-sex relationship was the right fit for him.
Okay.
So he never had a family, like a wife or children kind of family.
Yeah.
I mean, he had his other family.
Yeah. Okay. That's so strange because even just perception, thinking back in high school, for some reason I thought you lived with your dad. Probably because I didn't really hear much about your mom. And if anything, I heard about your dad. And even at that, it wasn't a whole lot, but I just assumed you lived with your dad up the street. That's kind of what I thought, but that was really the extent of it. But that's not the case.
No, yeah, because it all resurfaced in high school. Talk about him because his partner died of AIDS.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you think did it resurface because obviously that's what was going on in your life and people found out about it. How do you feel like it resurfaced?
It was the same year that Magic Johnson was diagnosed.
Okay.
And I don't really know how other people found out about it. I didn't even know until after he had died.
Okay.
And then it was just, it was the fear stuff came back. So now not only do I not want to be around you because your dad's gay, but now what if your dad is touching you after he's touched? And
you're all with all of us and all of the parents and their kids. Yes.
Because that was back when people thought you could just touch somebody and get AIDS. There was so much that was unknown about it at the time.
That's so crazy because that was the 90s. And yes, it was still the early 90s. Yeah. But I, in my head, when I think about that mentality, I just think strictly 80s. I don't even think 90s at all. But obviously, that's not the case.
Yeah, it still lingered. Plus, we went to a really religious school.
Yeah.
So I could see it lingering in those circles.
Yeah.
Versus the more liberal circles, I guess.
Okay.
For lack of a better word.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it just, high school was just another repeat of not having a lot of friends because of all of that.
Were you angry at anyone in particular? Like, were you angry at your mom or did you have anger towards them because of like an alienation that you were feeling? Do you feel like you put blame on anyone?
I was angry at other people for not.
You put it in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Not realizing
that, hey, like this is, first of all, it's not okay. And second of all, nothing's going to happen to you.
Right.
And,
basing truths out of assumptions angered me. And so it was directed at the people who were naive. Mm. I had, at that point, had lived with it for 6 years. So, I wasn't mad at my mom or my dad. Actually, very proud of my dad for being able to finally acknowledge like his real self and to do it at a time when it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And to, do what was right for him. And then I became overly protective. Okay. So like, here's a silly story, but so Phil Del Rio, when his sister started her freshman year, I pulled her aside and I said, Vanessa, your brother's gay. I don't know if he knows it.
Oh, you just told her?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
okay.
I said, but this is how people react sometimes. And I became a huge protector of her.
Well, how did she respond?
She always knew.
Okay. She was okay. It wasn't like, why the hell are you saying this to me? No, it was totally...
Yeah.
Did you feel like you knew you could say that to her too? Okay.
I don't think I would have said it if I didn't think I could.
Okay. It wasn't like, I'm just freshman here. Yeah. I just want to tell you my knowledge and my wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Phil and I were friends and I had known Vanessa. So we had a friendship before she even started. Okay. And so it was just one of those things that I just kind of felt like I just went into protective mode. Yeah. It's like, here's what I experienced.
Okay.
Yeah.
What, Because I was so caught up in my own life, and mainly my boyfriend in high school, it didn't occur to me, like I knew your story in a sense, but I didn't think any of it, I mean, I felt like it was different than my life, but I didn't think of it in a negative way. And therefore I don't recall giving you any trouble about it. So I feel like I didn't really realize that was going on, but it was. Is that what you're saying? In high school, were people saying things? Like, what did it look like? Or was it more just alienation?
Yeah, it was more the alienation. Whispers under breath. Just, you don't take any chances. What if, like, now she has it, kind of thing. Just a lot of misguided, I think they just didn't have the right information, unfortunately.
Okay.
And it was just during the school day, because I grew up with a single parent who taught. I worked starting my freshman year, so I wasn't around a lot outside of school hours.
Where did you work at a school?
No, so my first job was at Domenico's, the one in Pasadena by PHS.
Okay.
My mom, a student at her school, was the daughter of one of the owners in the Domenico's family. Okay. And they helped us get me a job there. I had to get a worker's permit and all that stuff because I was underage. And then after that, my dad got me a job at the Broadway, which is now the Macy's. Okay.
Oh, Broadway. I was like, is that a club? Is that why would you work at a club?
That's just how old we are
today. Okay, yeah. There wasn't any straight up bullying it to your face. And did you feel like it was mostly your class, your year, or did it kind of feel like it was just people in general in high school?
Probably more my class. And it's interesting. The memories are kind of more vague these days. I can recall loneliness and sadness. And I can recall feeling like I was going through something so extremely heavy at a time when everybody's just, their biggest worry is whether a guy likes them or a girl likes them.
Yep. That's all I cared about.
Yeah. So I felt disconnected in a way.
How do you feel like you had coping mechanisms for that at the time, whether good or bad?
Yeah, sports was a great outlet.
So soccer.
Yeah, that was great. And I stayed with my ASO team. I played 1 year for LaSalle. Okay. But I actually just stayed with ASO. Okay. So, yeah, that was a great outlet. I never did therapy for it.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting. So I've done therapy for other things in my life.
As we get older, you're like, I'm over that. I'm totally good. Let's talk about this other thing that's bothering the hell out of me. So, and then your mom is not gay, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. So how did her life evolve from that?
She never dated, never remarried, raised us, has very great relationships with the women that she worked with at her school. They're all retired now and still are very close. Her big thing was, my job is to raise you guys now. I always felt a little sad. I wish she had dated or remarried. I always thought it would be cool if we had a blended family and other siblings or whatever. Yeah. It was hard for me for a while because my sister never wanted to talk about my dad. And she never she didn't really have much of a relationship with him too, going forward. And then I wanted to maintain a relationship, so that felt like a disconnect too in my own household. So I had this dream of if she got remarried and I had other half siblings or whatever. This kind of bigger unit and kind of probably felt like it would make up for some of that loneliness as well. It's interesting. I have never really tried to analyze it too much, but I wonder if the reason I don't have a huge circle of friends stems from having hardly any towards the end of my elementary years because of what happened. She was so much younger, it didn't hit her the same way. It didn't have the same effect. So she had a huge social group throughout middle school and high school. And I definitely felt lonely. I didn't feel like I had that. I don't know why at age 10, it was so natural to say, this is okay for him to be like this, and we should all just love him for who he is.
That's insane. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
But I think that also is telling of your kind of personality, and I don't mean to get into this kind of, but the kind of soul that you have, you know, that you were born with, that just allowed for that. You just kind of knew, and, you know, you worked through it your own way. But I don't really remember much about your sister, and I've seen a ton of pictures, but I'm sure you guys are probably like every other sibling, just opposite people, you know, opposite personalities, and no matter how close in age, I mean, even my 2- and 4-year-old, I mean, they couldn't be more different.
Oh yeah, we're extremely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that living through that, do you think that it changed how you are today?
I think who I am fundamentally as a person is a result of that experience.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's why I think I do what I do for a living.
You're a teacher.
Yeah. Special education though. So
okay.
It's like the hardest.
You've got some challenges.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I have a lot of friends who are gay. I tend to align more with that community because there was never judgment from that community like there was from my own community growing up.
Yeah.
So I tend to have people in my life that are also gay or bisexual. It just has completely shifted for me.
Okay. And that makes a lot of sense. You felt welcome, and I mean, there was just no stigma, and you know, that makes a lot of sense. And how's the family dynamic today? Mom and dad, you know, are we having family vacations together? And
you'd never know that there was animosity growing up, or that my sister and my dad didn't talk. When my dad's in town, my mom and my sister are over. They've all gone to Hawaii together. We weren't able to make the trip, but my dad and his husband were there, and my mom and my sister and her husband. You couldn't even tell.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What is the vision that high school Kelly had for your life when you looked to the future, like when you thought about being 40? And I'm sure you must have thought how old that was, because I mean, you know, which one of us in high school didn't think that 40 was like really old? Did you have a vision of what you wanted your life to be like, and does it look like that today?
It does now. So I had a vision of going into a field of caring for others. Okay. And that did not happen until 5 years ago. Okay. So I definitely got veered off course, not by my own choice. Life just took me down this other path that I wasn't expecting. And I worked really hard to get back.
Proudest moments of your life?
I would say it was, has it been 2 or 3 years now, when my dad got married. Okay. The culmination of emotions
leading up to that,
at he and Tim's wedding, I have never cried that way in my life.
Really?
Yeah. Just everything that I had been through, I can't imagine what he had been through at that time. If what I felt was as bad as what I experienced, it must have been 10 times worse to be the person who was gay. And to just have my sister to be there at the wedding. He invited my mom. You know, she just didn't feel comfortable, and that was okay. Yeah. But to then be able to see him marry the person he loved, it just was, that's the most defining moment of my life.
I always like to ask people, anything that you've done, what's the most exciting, ballsy thing that you've done in your life?
Overcoming anxieties in front of my kids feels ballsy to me.
Oh, really?
And so like past summer, we went on a cruise. Took them for the first time. They had never been on one. And there was this water slide on the top deck, huge staircase, and it was really windy. My son's acting like it's no big deal, and it's shaking the stairs, and I am just terrified.
Because he's going up it, or you're going up it?
Because I'm going up it.
Oh my God. Because I could totally relate to either one, and I'm like, so you're going up it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, keep your cool. You don't want him to be afraid and develop your anxiety.
Right,
like
totally.
This whole self-talk in my head.
Yeah.
And I went down it, and I was so proud of myself.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I was just waiting for you to say that. No, I was just nervous watching him.
Yeah, no.
You did that.
Yeah, I was so proud of him, and I didn't want him to see me freaking out and then think that this is something scary.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, those are ballsy moments that I can like get through something like that.
Well, thank you for being vulnerable and telling everyone your story, because I think it's an awesome story. And I will share that Kelly said to me, but I don't think I have an exciting story. And I was like, are you kidding me? Because I know a few. And I don't even think I know everything about you. So yeah, everyone has a story. So thanks for sharing, and I really appreciate it. And I'm sure that someone out there will listen to it and watch it and relate to it. So yeah.
Yeah.
And
thank you for asking me.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for keeping me warm. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.